I take a lot of pictures of dogs because I like dogs, because they don't object to being photographed, and because they don't ask for prints.
The relationship between man and dog is like with no other animal on the planet. I mean, tortoises come quite close, but still not close enough. When it comes to animal photography, you can find many books, online lessons or YouTube videos showing you and teaching you how to photograph animals looking like animals. This video is not going to be the typical wildlife photography manual where you sneak up on a dog in this David Attenborough style or take a shot with an 800mm lens hidden in the mud. Today I would like to talk about one of my favorite photographers, Elliot Erwitt, and his approach to dog photography. If you are familiar with the photographs of Eliot Erwitt, you know they usually share some aesthetic qualities as well as superb composition. After seeing so many of his photographs, I can usually recognize his style even when I find his photo I have never seen before. Eliot Erwitt is French-born American photographer and filmmaker. Erwitt started with photography in high school, photographing proms and working in the darkroom. For him, photography was primarily a way of working independently for himself. As he says, his only other steady job was the one from the army. After he got out of the army, he joined the Magnum Photos, cooperative with some of the biggest names in the industry. What I admire about Elliot Erwitt is that he's one of the few professional photographers who is actually more famous for his personal work.
I'm a professional photographer with a significant hobby, which is photography.
So, how does Erwitt photograph dogs? Let's take a closer look. Elliot Erwitt took his first dog picture in 1946, but it wasn't the first time a dog was a subject for art. We can track the relationship between dog and man all the way back almost 15,000 years. Drawn in caves, loved and used during the prehistoric times, and in the ancient Egypt, well, coming close second. Dogs have always served art as subject and symbols. The role of the dog in society changed many times, from working companions, war soldiers to full-fledged family members. In the 19th century, we can see dogs starting to appear as portrait subjects. Slowly but surely, dogs took their place at men's side and have not left it ever since. As the photography became more accessible and affordable to general public, millions of people started to take photos, and of course, dogs also served as subjects. When I look at Erwitt's approach to photographing dogs, I can identify certain qualities which his photos share and which make them quite unique. It starts with the focus on the subject. When he photographs dogs, Erwitt makes dogs his primary subjects. He looks at the dogs before he looks at anything else. If the dog is interesting, if the situation the dog is in is interesting, he takes the shot. But these dogs do not serve just as complementary subjects to humans. It is actually quite the opposite. The secondary subject is the human element, and yeah, there is also one rather special thing he does to attract dogs' attention.
I bark at dogs and get odd reactions sometimes. In this case, every time I barked, the dog jumped.
The thing with Erwitt's dogs is that when you look at his photographs, the dogs are photographed in positions where they kind of resemble humans, which I think is the key. To show human-like qualities with a non-human subject often results in those humorous situations which may or may not be intentional.
I don't get up in the morning and decide I'm going to be funny. The things I photograph for my own pleasure have a certain signature. Some of them are ironic, some of them are amusing. But again, it's nothing that I plan. It's just the way things appear to me.
There is a certain mystique about these legendary photographers and street photography in general. You should do this, never do that, never stage a picture, never crop a picture, which I feel I should debunk a little. I think that in the end it is about the artist's vision. When you, for example, look at this famous dog photograph, which you might have already seen, you might be quite surprised that this is how the original picture actually looked like. I think Erwitt is a great example of a photographer just being a photographer, photographing around making photographs, if that makes any sense. You can see that when he was asked about personal identity, philosophy, or larger statements of his photography.
What about dogs, the simple themes? Are you making a larger statement?
I really don't think about the big picture or what I'm doing, as I mentioned before. I just take pictures and hope that something comes out of it.
Apart from his brilliant use of composition techniques such as echoing shapes, coincidences, or juxtapositions, Erwitt's photographs show dogs not only behaving or misbehaving like real dogs, but also with the human-like elements. Anyways, the thing with casual photographs is that the opportunity to make them appears irregularly. When Eliot Erwitt saw this scene for the first time, he immediately knew this would be a great photograph. However, he found himself without his camera to capture it. Fortunately, he was able to borrow a camera from his friend Hiroji Kubota and took the shot. And when I say a shot, I mean 24 frames of the scene, methodically shooting around until he found the perfect composition. The one that you see here is actually the last one on the roll. So carrying camera around definitely helps. Other than that, you just need to practice. So go out and make pictures, photograph what you love, and get better with every frame you take. After all, it is just like Eliot Erwitt says. Photography is not a rocket science. Essentially, you buy the camera and follow the instructions on the box.
The most important thing you can do in a photograph or in photography is to evoke emotion, to make people either laugh or cry, in a sense, or both emotions in the same time. If you can achieve that, I think you've done well.
Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.